What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC 305. We have Israel Adesanya going against Dricus Du Plessis. We are in Perth, Australia for a very fun pay-per-view card. And yeah, this card has a little bit of everything. We have a great main event up top, the middleweight championship between Adesanya and Du Plessis, a fight that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. We have an absolute fire co-main event. Steve Erceg going against Kaikar of France. A lot of other fun fights on this main card, like Tuivasa and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. We have the Leech making his return, taking on a very hot prospect in Carlos Prates as well. And then we have some fun fights on these prelims, some fights that definitely probably shouldn't be sanctioned, but some fun fights nonetheless, and I think some fights that are going to produce some violence here in Perth. So, yeah, really looking forward to this card, looking forward to breaking it down. Before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. Dana White's Contender Series is back, and I do want to say thank you guys so much for all the support, by the way, that I received on my first Dana White's Contender Series video of the year. I was like shocked at the amount of likes. It's like 400 something likes, tons of comments, so appreciate you guys. If you guys could do that for this video as well, that'd be great. Get the likes up, leave a comment. Any comment helps, could be positive, negative, but those comments do go a long way in helping out the channel. So since this is a pay-per-view card, going to be bringing back the Significant Strike contest. To enter the contest, like the vid, subscribe, and then comment how many Significant Strikes you think that Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis are going to combine for. $25 to first. If there's a tie, the tie does go to the person that commented first. And then like I've been doing, if you guys hit it on the dot, I'm going to double the prize to $50. Last person, last pay-per-view for 304, got it on the dot, gave him $50. So yeah, comment down those Significant Strikes below. And then lastly, I want to shout out the sponsor of the show, and that is Prize Picks. Shout out to Prize Picks. If you guys use promo code DFS, let me get this out of the way. If you use code DFSBTN, you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. So you get free $50. I mean, it helps me, it helps you. Take like an MLB entry, put $5 on it, you'll get $50 for this weekend for some fights. Use that promo code DFSBTN to get that. I think it's a phenomenal deal. And then also, right now, they have a free square. I love these free squares for Prize Picks. Right now, Adesanya needs to get one Significant Strike, which I think you can certainly get one Significant Strike. So, again, promo code DFSBTN. You'll get $50 on your first $5 lineup entry, and then go put that free square in there. It's going to be a good opportunity to get a good start on Prize Picks for new users there. All right. With all that out of the way, I say we get into it, and I say I put myself back to where I belong, and let's break down some fights. We got Stewart Nicoll going against Jesus Aguilar. Very good fight to kick off the card here. We have Stewart Nicoll, who is 29 years old, 5'5", with a 66.5-inch reach, 8-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Jesus Aguilar, 29 years old, 5'4", with a 62-inch reach, 10-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here for this fight. And we have the newcomer, Stewart Nicoll, opening up plus 135. As an underdog, he is currently a minus 230 favorite. As far as Jesus Aguilar, he opened up as a minus 155 favorite, and he is now a big plus 195 underdog. And yeah, I was very impressed with Stewart Nicoll. One thing we have to mention, though, is he has not obviously fought the best competition in the world. This is going to probably be his toughest test to date in Jesus Aguilar, whereas Aguilar, he has fought some good guys. He beat Mateusz in a very close fight. He fought Tatsuro Taira. He did lose that fight, but fought him nonetheless. And he's fought some other good guys outside the UFC as well. But yeah, Stewart Nicoll, I think this guy's legit. This guy's wrestling's very good. His grappling's very good, and his ground and pound is vicious as well. And just looking at this matchup stylistically, it's like, yeah, Stewart Nicoll hasn't fought the best competition, but, I mean, Jesus Aguilar has a 40% takedown defense. He's content to be off his back. He'll throw up submissions, lose minutes, and he's been submitted in both of his losses, Aguilar. So I think Stewart Nicoll definitely has some paths here with the wrestling. I think the takedowns will come fairly easy. And then once he's on top, like I said, he has that ground and pound, and I think that ground and pound can open up submissions. And I think there's a chance that Aguilar could get his 3rd submission loss here. So to me, I think Stewart Nicoll does look like the real deal, but this will be his toughest test to date. But I'm going Stewart Nicoll here. I'm taking him to win this fight by 2nd round submission. Next, we have Kenan going against Ricky Glenn. We got Kenan, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 71.5-inch reach, 21-8 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Ricky Glenn, 35 years old, 6 foot with a 70.5-inch reach, 22-8 and 2 and 1-3-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Kenan opened up minus 210. He's currently minus 175. Ricky Glenn opened up plus 180. He is currently a plus 150 underdog. And when I first looked at this card, it's like, I feel like there's 3 fighters on this card that probably shouldn't be fighting this weekend, and Ricky Glenn is definitely one of them. I just don't know what Ricky Glenn's really doing here at this point. First and foremost, he's coming up a weight class here, like late in his career. This guy's 35 at this point. He's coming up to welterweight. I don't like that for him. This is a guy that he's just looked terrible. Like point blank, he's looked awful in his last couple of fights. It's not only the fact that he's getting finished and knocked out in the first round. It's just he's looking bad. Like that Giagos fight, getting knocked out in the first round by Giagos, I think that's a horrible look for in the first place. But just how he looked in that fight, just looked washed, just looked completely done. And that was, back in April of 2023. And then he goes out there against Drew Dober, same thing, just looks washed, just looks bad in there, and gets knocked out in the first round as well. And now he's taken on Kenan, who is definitely a step down from Drew Dober. But Kenan does have some power here. Kenan does have solid takedown defense. I don't think Ricky Glenn's gonna be able to take this guy down, especially coming up a weight class at this point of his career. So I think this fight's primarily gonna stay standing, and when it is, it's like Ricky Glenn just looks so bad right now. So I gotta go Kenan here. The question is Kenan going to knock out Ricky Glenn? And I kind of lean towards, yeah. I mean, I think that's the most likely scenario. I think Ricky Glenn his chin's kind of dust, and he's kind of dust in general, as sad as it sounds. But yeah, I'm going Kenan here, and I think Kenan probably lands a big shot at some point and finishes this fight. So give me Kenan to win this fight by second round knockout. Moving on, we have a fight that should not be sanctioned. We got Tom Nolan going against Alex Reyes. We have Tom Nolan, 24 years old, 6'3" with a 73-inch reach. He's 7-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Alex Reyes, 37 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach, 13-4 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. We have Tom Nolan opened up minus 1,000. At one point, he got down to like minus 1,500, but he's back to minus 1,150, which is still by far the biggest favorite on the card. Alex Reyes opened up plus 700, and he is currently a plus 750 underdog. So this is a fight, like a couple fights in this card, where the matchmaking, I don't want to say it doesn't make sense, because we literally see what they're doing. I mean, we are in Australia. Tom Nolan is from Australia. They're trying to build this, 24-year-old, 6'3" lightweight up, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. They're trying to not only get Tom Nolan a win, but get Tom Nolan a vicious first round knock. I mean, that's what's happening here. Alex Reyes shouldn't be allowed in the cage, in my opinion. This is a guy in Alex Reyes who's fought literally 3 times in the last 7 years. His last win came 6 years and 11 months ago against Gil Guardado. Against Gil. So I don't know what's going on here. Apparently, like Alex Reyes, like something, forget what happened, but like something terrible happened to him, and he bounced back, and that's awesome to see him, back in the cage. But gee, I mean, no, I mean this fight shouldn't be happening. So Tom Nolan's going to be younger by 13 years. He's going to have a massive height advantage. Tom Nolan, although I think he has some problems in his own right, he's hittable, maybe a little chinny. It's just, is Alex Reyes going to knock him out? Probably not. So this is Tom Nolan. This is Tom Nolan by first round knockout. And again, the matchmakers probably should be a little ashamed of themselves. I mean, they couldn't have found any other lightweight on planet Earth to fight Tom Nolan here, but they're giving him Alex Reyes. So it's got to be Tom Nolan, but that's not a hot take. This guy's minus 1,000. Give me Tom Nolan first round knockout. Moving on. Another fight that borderline shouldn't be sanctioned here. We got Jack Jenkins going against Herbert Burns. We got Jack Jenkins, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach, 12-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Herbert Burns, 36 years old, 5'9" with a 74-inch reach, 11-5, and he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. All right, so again, another fight that probably shouldn't be happening, just because I feel like I'm kind of shocked they're letting Herbert Burns back in there, and we'll kind of talk about why. But Jack Jenkins, obviously another big favorite. He opened at minus 650. He's currently minus 800. Herbert Burns opened at plus 470. He's currently plus 550. So Again, we are in, Australia. Jack Jenkins is from Australia. Young guy, decent. I think Jack Jenkins is actually decent, and they're trying to get Jack Jenkins a win here. They're not bringing Herbert Burns all the way to Perth, Australia at 36 years old on a 3-fight skid to build up a Burns, right? They're trying to build up, Jack Jenkins here. You got to imagine, and I think they'll probably get what they want. So Herbert Burns is very dangerous in the first 5 minutes of a fight. First 5 minutes, he's very dangerous. He got that knockout win against Nate Landwehr. I believe that was his debut with the flying knee. He got a submission win shortly after that. But the problem with Herbert Burns is a couple things. It is the cardio, the heart, the durability. It's all just not there. If Herbert Burns is not able to get you out of there in the first 5 minutes, I think he's in trouble. In the second round, that's what we've seen. Like it's death, taxes, and Herbert Burns getting knocked out in the second round. Got knocked out in the second round by Daniel Pineda. Got knocked out in the second round by Bill Algeo. Got knocked out in the second round by Julio Arce. And it's hard not to imagine him getting knocked out in the second round by Jack Jenkins here. With that said, though, we got to be a little careful. Jack Jenkins is minus 800, which I think is kind of crazy because Jack Jenkins has been finished in all 3 of his losses, and he has been finished twice by sub. So Herbert Burns will have a 5-minute window to submit Jack Jenkins, and it would be a massive upset. It really would be, but he has about 5 minutes to do it. So I have to go Jack Jenkins, survive the first round, maybe get put in some bad spots, but survive the first round, and once that second round starts, Herbert Burns is going to start to look for the door there shortly after. So give me Jack Jenkins, and give me Jack Jenkins by second round knockout. Next, we have Luana Santos going against Casey O'Neill. We got Luana Santos, 24 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach, 8-1 and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Casey O'Neill, 26 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach, 9-2 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Luana Santos opened up as a plus 130 underdog. She is now sitting at minus 150. Casey O'Neill opened up minus 150, and she's currently sitting at plus 130. So the odds have flipped since they opened a while ago at this point. But yeah, this is probably going to be my first dog pick of the week, and it's going to be Casey O'Neill. Like, people loved Casey O'Neill. I've never been high on her at all, but there was a ton of hype on Casey O'Neill. She went out there in her debut. I think her debut was against Shanna Dobson. Yeah, against Shanna Dobson, she looked like an absolute killer. But we got to remember, it was Shanna Dobson. And then she goes out there in a come-from-behind type victory against Laura Procopio and submitted a black belt in Procopio. Like, that was a good win. Then she goes out there and beats the brakes off of Antonina Shevchenko. She beats Roxanne Modafferi a little bit. And just a ton of hype starts to build on Casey O'Neill. People think she's the real deal, all that. And then she gets a giant step up in competition against Jennifer Maia and doesn't look that great. And then she takes another fight against Ariana Lipski and then looks horrible. Gets finished in that fight, gets submitted in the second round. But now she's taken a little bit, of a step down here in competition against Luana Santos. I know Luana Santos went out there and she looked like, amazing in her last fight against Maria Agapova, but, everybody knew that Agapova has zero ground game whatsoever. Agapova has probably one of the worst ground games in the UFC. Well, she had. I think she got cut, unfortunately. But, yeah, she took her down and she submitted her in the first round. But this is a much tougher matchup, in my opinion, against Casey O'Neill, because unlike Maria Agapova, Casey O'Neill does have a really good ground game. Unlike, Stephanie Egger, Casey O'Neill does have solid striking in terms of she's just going to throw a crap ton of volume. She's going to throw, she's landing almost 9 significant strikes per minute. She can wrestle a little bit. She has really good cardio as well. So I just feel like, Casey O'Neill is going to have the better cardio here. Casey O'Neill is going to have the better output here. I feel like Luana Santos can get takedowns early on, but as the fight goes on, I feel like Casey O'Neill can start to take over here. So I just think it's a close fight. I expect Santos to have success early, but as this fight goes on, I think I favor O'Neill more and more. And we got to remember, Luana Santos is taking this fight on short notice. And we are in Australia. It's a long trip for Luana Santos, whereas Casey O'Neill's, from Australia. So just another reason I kind of like the dog here. Of course, she is a popular dog by the looks of it. Money's coming in on her. I think she was as high as like plus 150 something. But I'm going to go Casey O'Neill here to win this fight, and I'm going to take her to win by decision. Moving on, we got Josh Culibao going against Ricardo Ramos. We got Josh Culibao, 30 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, 11-3 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Ricardo Ramos, 29 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach, 16-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We will take a look at the odds here, and we have Josh Culibao opening up as a -115. Ever so slight favor about to pick him. He's currently a -140 favorite. Ricardo Ramos opened at -105. He's currently +120. And I'm going to be going with another dog here in Ricardo Ramos, and it's terrifying. This one does terrify me because on one hand, I'm looking at this fight and it's like, skill for skill, this line makes no sense to me. Skill for skill, Ricardo Ramos, I think, can absolutely hang in the striking with Culibao. And Ricardo Ramos has all the grappling upside. Ricardo Ramos can get takedowns. Like, there was that fight with Bill Algeo where he got like 10 takedowns in a fight. He is a black belt in BJJ. We've seen Josh Culibao taken down. We've seen him make mistakes on the mat, give up his back, give up position. So yeah, I feel like Ricardo Ramos at the very least can make it competitive on the feet, but I just feel like the wrestling upside is all with Ricardo Ramos here. The thing that terrifies me though is Ricardo Ramos seems like kind of a quitter to me. I mean, this is a guy in Ramos who has, I think, 5 losses in the UFC. All 5 of those come inside the distance. And he's been submitted in back-to-back fights in like the same exact way, like a guillotine. We saw Charles Jourdain finish this guy. That's a horrible look. I mean, that's about as bad as a look as you can get. Charles Jourdain submitting you in the very first round. I mean, that you should be ashamed of himself for that. And then he got submitted in the first round by Juicy J with a guillotine, which that's not, awful, but still, I mean, that's not something you really like to see. So I'm worried about Ricardo Ramos. And then on top of that, I think he's been knocked out 2 or 3 times in the UFC as well. So it's a tough one because, skill for skill, minute for minute, I feel like Ricardo Ramos has a lot of ways to win this fight, but I think he has a little bit of quit in him, and I think the durability is a serious issue, whereas Josh Culibao, this guy seems tough as nails. So I'm going to still go with Ricardo Ramos. I'm going to take him to win this fight by decision, mixing in the takedowns, but I think this is going to be a very, very close and competitive fight. But give me Ricardo Ramos to win this fight by decision. I don't know if I'm touching this one, though, from a betting perspective. Moving on, we have, in my opinion, just the most terrible fight on the card, but it should be hilarious, I guess. We got Junior Tafa going against Valter Walker. We got Junior Tafa, 27 years old, 6'3", with a 72-inch reach, 5-2 and 3-2. In his last 5 fights, Valter Walker, 26 years old, 6'6", with an 81-inch reach, 11-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We have Junior Tafa opening up +135. He's now -130. Valter Walker opening up -155. He's now +110. Kind of surprised at these odds because I really have only seen like people on the Valter Walker side here, and yeah, this is a terrible fight in my opinion because I'm just not high on really either guy, but especially Valter Walker. Like, this guy, he can wrestle, so like in theory he has a path here. Junior Tafa has 0 takedown defense. Like, I seriously think his takedown defense percentage is like 0 or close to it. So yeah, takedowns for Valter should come free. It's just Valter's just gassing out early and really the majority of his fights. He looked awful in the Bresky fight. Like, he looked terrible. Like, that, that's like, you shouldn't be losing to Lucas Bresky first and foremost. And that was a close fight, but the fact that it was even close is a terrible look. He was huffing and puffing like 5 minutes into the fight, getting clipped on the feet by Lucas Bresky. Like, it was just a terrible look to me. So, gosh, kind of how I see this fight playing out is Valter Walker gets a takedown in the first round and wins the first round, right? But when that second round starts, I think Valter Walker is going to be a little tired. I think Junior Tafa might just start to stuff a little bit of these takedowns. And once this fight's on the feet, I don't think it's going to be that competitive for long because I think Junior Tafa is going to take off his head. But yeah, this fight's a mess. I'm going to take Tafa to win this fight by second round knockout, but I would not bet this fight with a 10-foot pole, especially, laying chalk on Junior Tafa. So, but yeah, it's Tafa for me. I just don't think Walker is anywhere near UFC caliber, in my opinion at least. Some other people might think different, but yeah, Junior Tafa, second round knockout. All right, we have the main, and by the way, that's the featured prelim. That can't be the feature. Why are they featuring those guys? Yeah, they're featuring Junior Tafa and Valter Walker. They should be ashamed. Why are we featuring these two? Are we featuring how bad this fight's going to be? You think this fight's going to make people excited about the pay-per-view? I mean, maybe if Tafa gets a knockout, but this fight could be awful. This fight could be awful. So I guess that they're featuring Junior Tafa versus Valter Walker. That's the fight they are featuring on these prelims. Anyway, Main card opener. We got Carlos Prates going against the Leech. We got Carlos Prates, 31 years old, 6'1", with a 78-inch reach, 19-6 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. The Leech, 36 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach, 19-8 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We will take a look at the odds here. Another massive, massive favorite here. And Carlos Prates opened up minus 350. He's currently minus 370. The Leech opened up plus 285. He's currently plus 295. So, yeah, Fighting Nerds, no surprise. Fighting Nerds have been on absolute fire. All of them. They're looking extremely good. We even saw, like, Bruno Brazil, who's training at Fighting Nerds, go out there and beat the living breaks off of Molly McCann in England. It made no sense. But, yeah, Bruno Brazil is out there. Like, Fighting Nerds, these guys and girls, they're looking very good. And there's a ton of hype on him, and rightfully so. And there's a ton of hype on Prates. I think people really like Prates. Not only is he going out there and knocking fools out in the UFC, but he's also out there smoking cigarettes. Like, there was videos going viral on him smoking cigs after the fight, which I think is hilarious. So yeah, a lot of reasons to like Prates, but this is a wide line, and this is a step up in competition. It's no surprise that this is a big step up from Charles Radke and Officer Trevin Giles, but there's a lot of red flags and narrative issues on the Leech side. So the Leech has not fought in, I think, about 10 or 1 year and 10 months since we've seen the Leech in there. It's been a while. It was since that Daniel Rodriguez fight. That was a close fight. And apparently the Leech has had some big spine issue. I think he got spine surgery. That's not good. That's not good, because we've seen fighters have spine related injuries and come back and it just not look that great, and then this is a guy in the Leech who's 36 years old at this point. So the layoff, the injury, the age, it's all just not good. So although I think we're disrespecting the Leech a little bit here, it's really hard to pick this guy to win the fight with all these circumstances surrounding him. So I got to go Prates here. I'm going to take Prates to win this fight, and I'm going to take him to win this fight by decision, actually. I think he's going to do the better work across 15 minutes. The Leech is next level tough, next level durable. If he does go out there and be the first one to knock out the Leech in 27 fights, that would be huge, and maybe he does. But I'm going to take Carlos Prates to win this fight. Just doing a little bit more, landing a little bit bigger shots, having a little bit more moments across 15 minutes. So Carlos Prates and Carlos Prates by decision. Great way to start that main card. Next, we have Jairzinho Rozenstruik going against Tai Tuivasa. We got Jairzinho Rozenstruik, 36 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach, 14-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Tai Tuivasa, 31 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach, 14-7 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Jairzinho opened up minus 235. He's currently minus 220. Tai Tuivasa opened up plus 200. He is currently plus 185. And there are some just weird fights here, some weird matchmaking, because on this card, first of all, like I said, Jack Jenkins, Herbert Burns just shouldn't be happening. Tom Nolan, Alex Reyes, those fights are just kind of jokes. But this is a fight where if I'm a matchmaker, right, you have a guy in Tai Tuivasa who's a fan favorite. People love this guy. He's on a 4-fight skid. Hasn't won in 4 fights. He's been finished in all 4 of those losses. We are in Australia. Why not give Tai Tuivasa a winnable fight? Why not get Tai Tuivasa back on track? Give Tai Tuivasa, Braxton Smith. Give him, I don't know, Parker Porter. Give Tai Tuivasa Chris Barnett. Give him a winnable fight here. Josh Parisian, bring Jared Vanderaa back. Bring Jared Vanderaa back in there. Let's give Tai Tuivasa a win. Let's get him back on track. No, they're giving him Jairzinho Rozenstruik. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, if Tai loses this fight, he's going to be on a 5-fight skid. So I don't get it. I would personally want to get Tai a win here. Maybe he does win, but it's not going to be easy. Jairzinho Rozenstruik's a very good striker. What I do like about this fight, though, is, guys are typically looking in a lot of fights to take both these guys down. We just saw Tai Tuivasa taken down and subbed easily by Marcin Tybura. We've seen Jairzinho taken down in some fights as well. These guys are just going to stand and bang. So I think it's going to be a fun fight here, but I got to go Rozenstruik. I think Rozenstruik's a better striker. Tai Tuivasa, he's very hittable. He's been getting hurt in a lot of fights. I think Rozenstruik probably knocks him out in the second round. So give me Rozenstruik here to win this fight and win it by a second round knockout. Next we have Mateusz Gamrot going against Dan Hooker. We got Mateusz Gamrot, 33 years old, 5'10", with a 70.5-inch reach, 24-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Dan Hooker, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach, 23-12, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We have Gamrot as a big favorite here. He opened at minus 350. He's currently minus 330. Dan Hooker opened up plus 285. He's currently plus 270. Yeah, for me, it's Gamrot. I don't think this is going to be the most exciting fight on the card because, Gamrot's going to go out there and do what Gamrot does best, and that's going to be attempt literally a million takedowns. I mean, this guy Gamrot, no joke, he's attempting, I think, like almost 20 takedowns per 15 minutes. Like, it's just ridiculous. His offense is spamming takedowns, and, he's winning a lot of these fights, and I think this is one he's going to win as well. I mean, he's landing 15 of those takedowns. I mean, it's crazy. Like, Dan Hooker, I was looking through his record, and I think his manager has done a great job throughout his career because he's, like, not fighting anybody that's going to try to take him down outside of Islam, where Islam, subbed him in the first round. That, no shame in that. And then Claudio Puelles, but Puelles is just a massive step down from, some of these guys. And, yeah, Gamrot, I think he's just going to spam takedowns here. I think he's going to lay on Hooker. I think this fight probably does go to decision. I've seen some people make some arguments for Dan Hooker in terms of, like, the damage-based scoring, which I could maybe see it. It's just I think Gamrot's going to attempt so many takedowns that Hooker's not really going to be able to get much offense off at all. So I got to go Gamrot here. Gamrot by decision makes most sense to me, but a fight that I'm not entirely looking forward to. All right, and then we have the co-main event. A fight that I am looking forward to. It is Steve Erceg going against Kaikar of France. We got Steve Erceg, 29 years old, 5'8", with a 68.5-inch reach, 12-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Kaikar of France, 31 years old, 5'4", with a 69-inch reach, 24-11 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Steve Erceg is the favorite. He opened up minus 210. He's currently minus 160. Kaikar of France opened up plus 180. He's currently plus 140. So, for me, I think there's a couple different ways this fight can play out. So I'm looking at this fight, I'm like, if this fight stays standing for 15 minutes, this is going to be a very, very close fight, right? Like, Kaikar France is a very good striker, very good volume, a lot of power for the division as well. Steve Erceg, also a really good striker, good volume in his own right, a good power as well for Steve Erceg, just a really good striker too. But I think, this fight on the feet is going to be very competitive. And if this fight does stay standing for 15 minutes, like, it might look like a pick'em. But the reason I do favor Steve Erceg here is a couple reasons. The durability, I think, is huge here for Steve Erceg. Hugely in favor for him. This is a guy in Erceg who's never been knocked out, never been submitted, extremely tough, black belt on BJJ. This guy has an insane chin on him. So I don't think Kaikar France is finishing Steve Erceg. On the flip side, Kaikar France has been finished 6 times. He's been knocked out before. He's been subbed before. He's been dropped a lot. He's been hurt a lot. And Steve Erceg, I think he could land a big shot here and hurt Kaikar France. So I think the durability is a big reason why I do favor Steve Erceg here. And the other reason is going to be the grappling upside. Steve Erceg has all the grappling upside in this matchup. Kaikar France does have very good takedown defense. Don't get me wrong. It's like 88%, but if Steve Erceg is able to get this fight down to the mat, like, he could very well sub Kaikar France here as well. So I just feel like Steve Erceg, with the durability, the grappling advantage, just has more paths, more ways to win. He's actually the younger fighter as well. So, yeah, I like Steve Erceg here. I think Steve Erceg can potentially hurt Kaikar France and maybe submit him shortly after. So I'm going Steve Erceg to win this fight by 3rd round submission. All right, it is now time for the main event. Israel Adesanya going against Dricus Du Plessis. If you guys have not commented down your significant strikes for this fight, comment those down right now. But we got Israel Adesanya going against Dricus Du Plessis. Adesanya, 35 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach, 24-3 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Dricus Du Plessis, 30 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach, 21-2 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. This fight is a straight pick 'em. We got Adesanya opening up minus 150, currently minus 110. Dricus opening up plus 130, currently minus 110. I would not be shocked if Dricus actually went off as the favorite when this fight starts. Just with the way the line's been moving, it's been nothing but, love on the Dricus Du Plessis side. And for me, I'll be honest, guys, this is a fight that I'm really, really struggling with. I've been kind of going back and forth. At first, I was maybe leaning Dricus, and then after looking into it a lot more, kind of leaning Adesanya. Going back and watch that Dricus-Sean Strickland fight, I really don't think that Dricus won that fight at all, especially because, Sean Strickland was the champion, and, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. I'm not sure if he beat Sean Strickland at all, and it definitely wasn't convincingly. Like, that fight was very close. And I didn't like how Dricus approached that fight. Dricus is a guy that's typically a complete madman. He's going to come forward with reckless abandon and try to take your head off. And he didn't really do that a ton against Sean Strickland, and kind of played Sean Strickland's game a lot in that fight. And I feel like if he does that here against Adesanya, like if he sticks at range against Adesanya, I think Adesanya is going to make it look pretty easy. So I would like to see Dricus go in there and just pressure, because Adesanya I don't think likes pressure. Just pressure him and try to take off Adesanya's head. And if he does that, maybe he can knock out Adesanya, but I don't know. 5 rounds. I feel like that definitely does favor Adesanya. I know Dricus did go 5 his last fight, but Sean Strickland definitely took over as the fight goes on. Strickland outlanded Dricus in that 5th round, 53-35. It wasn't really close. Strickland outlanded him 33-29 in the 4th. Strickland outlanded him in the 3rd as well, and in the 1st. So, I mean, I gotta go Adesanya here, but there are some question marks with Adesanya. Adesanya's coming off of his worst fight in his entire career. I mean, that fight against Sean Strickland was a terrible look. Did not like what I saw in that fight. If that Adesanya shows up against Dricus, he's getting finished in my opinion. But I kind of feel like we're getting a more motivated Israel Adesanya. It looks like he's really taking this fight seriously. And if he is, I feel like this is a winnable fight for him. But again, not a fight that I have a ton of confidence on, and I'll probably be staying away from a betting perspective. But as a fan, I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing who gets it done. But I'm going to pick Adesanya to win this fight and win it by decision. He's talking about like how he wants to go out there and destroy Dricus, and that's just not Adesanya's game. He's probably going to outpoint him to a decision here. So give me Adesanya to win this fight by decision. And also, again, the free square on Prize Picks. Use that code DFSBTN and check out Prize Picks to get the more on Izzy 0.5 significant strikes. He just needs one. He just needs one, and I think he gets it as well. So there you guys have it. Thank you for watching. If you guys could, like on your way out, subscribe on your way out as well. If you guys do want to support me more, if you guys want extra content, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Dana White's Contender Series we got 9 more weeks of it. The first week went solid from a prediction standpoint. The reads I thought were okay. Some were good, some were solid, but the predictions were good. Already starting to get into week 2 of Dana White's Contender Series. We have UFC 305 content, obviously, and then also next week we have the well-awaited debut of Jose Medina. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So best of luck, everybody. Enjoy the card. Should be a fun one, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you.